everybody. Welcome to Obscure Animation. This is the show where we talk about independent anime and animated films, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And today we are talking about the anime film from 2019. This is PROMARE, and it's a wild adventure. It's going to be really fun to talk about it. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
Yes, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you about this cool movie.
Yay! I'm so glad you liked it. It's definitely one of those ones that is a little bit risky because it's a lot. It's kind of crazy, and so you're like, I hope you like it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, I am excited to talk about it.
yeah. So this movie it came out in 2019, like I said, and it's by the company called Trigger Animation, and this is their first feature film. And they had done shows, but this
Yeah, they
was
did
their
some TV shows in Japan, right? Is that
hmm
yeah?
yeah.
And so, any short films, Rachel? I
Um,
really don't know that much about Trigger, other than
so
what I've just learned here with this feature.
according to Wikipedia, there is a little. There's two of the Little Witch Academia. That's a show that they did. That they did two films for.
Okay,
Uh, but this is their first like real film.
okay,
that,
cool.
that
Well,
according to Wikipedia.
and then one thing to note about it, which you and I both we've corresponded a little bit, but that new Star Wars Visions
Mm.
series is coming to Disney Plus, which is uh, Lucasfilm contracted with some anime studios, right, to create some kind of a short film. I don't know how long. I mean, maybe they're
Yeah.
up to 20 minutes or longer. I'm not sure what the length is, of these each of these episodes, but Trigger Studios has created one of these episodes, right, for Star Wars Visions.
Yeah, I'm really excited about
I'm
that.
really excited about that too.
Mhm.
Uh, Particularly after seeing, I mean, I was excited about that series, and now after seeing, this feature from Trigger, uh, wow, I'm extra excited.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm just excited visually to see what these different anime people, and it's just cool to hope that maybe some people that have been holdouts and not embracing anime that maybe with this series they will.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Some cool storytelling in the Star Wars universe by these, you know, done in anime. I think what a cool idea.
Mhm.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and so Studio Trigger was founded by a man by Hiroyuki Amashi and Masahiko Atsuka. Sorry about my butchering those names, but and they did have some success with the Little Witch Academia series and some other series. Um, they even, I guess, launched a Kickstarter in order to fund the second episode of Little Witch Academia. And it says the project was well received and achieved its goal of $150,000 in under 5 hours and went on to raise a total of $625,518. So then they continue to crowdfund on they have a Patreon, I guess, if you're interested in supporting Trigger Studios. So it's a very small organization, and so it's very impressive that they pulled off this film.
This feature
Yeah.
film, which is
Hmm.
really visually, I want to know how they animated it, how they made it.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And it's amazing because they made this film for $17 million US,
wow,
which is just crazy.
that's amazing.
Yes,
Particularly after you've seen it,
I know.
it's like how do they
Yeah.
do it?
I mean, because people don't know, like the typical DreamWorks, Disney,
Oh,
you're talking at least $90 million, if
exactly.
not double that,
Right,
depending
it's
on the
gonna
film.
say double it.
Illumination is known for being extremely thrifty with their films, and they're usually in the 80 to $100 million range. Their films, but and certainly Pixar's are usually a lot more than that. So here you've got this just incredible animated film for $17 million US is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this was directed by Hiroyuki
Yeah. By the founder,
Arashi,
right,
yeah,
of the
the founder.
studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think the greatest standout of the film is just like I said, the incredible animation, and also the way it uses music is my, I think, favorite thing about it. It's just so engrossing, and I couldn't find anywhere where they said this, but it just, I have to believe that Akira was a very huge influence
Oh,
on.
absolutely. It reminded me so much of Akira.
Yeah.
And it was weird. Rachel, it reminded me of Akira, and then it reminded me of, or made me think of, Disney's Fantasia, in that
Yeah.
I wondered, because I just watched it on it's on HBO Max,
Hmm.
and I watched it on my TV, and I can imagine what it's like to see this in the theater,
Yeah.
because it would just be just a trip, and
Yeah.
that's what I was just picturing, like people seeing Fantasia for the first time on the big screen, or you know, like the '60s counterculture going into seeing it,
Yeah.
with some substances going on, and what a trip
Hmm.
it's got to be, because this is just such visually. I just, it's something else. I've never quite seen anything like
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I I couldn't find anything about this, but it seems like it was one of those movies. I swear it had two or three of those sort of Fathom events, like weekends kind of
I believe it
things.
did, because
That
I
because it was
remember
like,
seeing it advertised.
yeah, because it was like by popular demand, it's back.
Yes.
Because it was so well received, and I just thought it was so impressive. I was shocked by it,
Did
and
you
it
get to
just,
see it on the big screen then, for
I
when you saw it for
did,
the first
yeah.
time? Oh, how cool.
Yeah, and when I my review, I said I did a little capsule review at the time, and I said Trigger Studios has long made some of the most arresting and eye-popping anime on the market. Their latest film, Promare, is my first experience with one of their films, and I must admit I was really impressed. It tells the story of a futuristic society where a band of firefighters protect the world from a mysterious race of mutants called the Burnish. As the two races fight, they start to learn there might be more to the story than their leaders have told them. The animation in this film is intense, frenetic, crazy, whatever word you want to use, but it's also exhilarating. I loved the unique geometric style and the electronic music. It's an experience I highly recommend to those willing to take a risk. So,
A great write up. Uh,
thanks.
I wish I read before, before we recorded this
Yeah.
too, and I would just completely agree
Yeah.
with you.
It has a
Yeah,
97% on Rotten Tomatoes, including an 8 out of 10 uh average rating, which is really high.
high. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's especially how you consider how weird the movie is. Like the fact
Oh,
that so many not only liked it or recommended it, but it's not just like a shrug kind of
right.
like I did this weekend with Space Jam, for instance. I was like, it was okay, I guess.
Right.
This is a real recommendation from everybody,
Hmm.
which is exciting.
Oh yeah, and then, speaking of theaters and fan events, we noticed that it's coming back
Yes.
in September. So
So excited.
go to fathomevents.com and
Yeah.
check out find a theater near you where this is going to be playing, because I'm counting
Yeah.
me in to see it on the big
Yeah.
screen.
We have to go. That would be so fun.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Because I remember going to see it and I was really tired, but I was just
Oh,
snapped, right? It's
you just
like,
snap
it was
instantly.
so arresting and exhilarating is, like I said, is the word that I used. And And just the same way that Akira uses visuals and music so well, I think that that's the standout with this. The way
Mhm.
the sound design is so immersive.
Yes. I'm excited to experience that on,
Mhm.
bigger
Mhm.
speakers than the ones just in my little, my little
Yeah.
stereo at home. Uh, and as you mentioned too, these geometric shapes, I've never really quite seen anything like it. That's why I was mentioning, like, I would just love to, I would love to meet with the production team and just see how they
Mhm.
put those shots together. They just
Yeah.
really blew my mind.
I agree, and even just I love the design of, Gallo, the lead
Yes.
character. I love his hair, the way that it's just these triangles and the blue hair.
The blue hair, yeah,
Mhm.
really distinctive,
Yeah.
and, clearly anime, but very, I thought, unique to this film.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, as far as the story, what did you well, we'll dive into the deep, but overall, what do you think of the story with the burnish?
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I thought it was well set up and, interesting, uh, kind of, interesting take on the apocalyptic, yeah, on an apocalyptic storyline,
Mhm.
uh, with this kind of battle between the Burnish and then the Burning Rescue and,
Yeah.
uh, kind of the corrupt government and
Mhm.
all this different stuff that, I I quite liked it, and
Yeah.
I was able to follow along. Not that that was a concern, but,
Uh-huh.
but it had a story,
Yeah.
and
It reminds me a lot of the X-Men
uh-huh,
movies,
yeah, good
I
point.
think. Very
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
to
absolutely,
that.
and, I thought it was solid. I thought it stayed consistent. It also seemed to follow, uh, some anime tropes, and I don't mean that
Uh-huh.
as a criticism. I just thought
Right.
it just knew what it was wanting to be, but wow, it was
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, I'm like, if is it gonna how is it gonna hold up? Because when something is so visceral and you have that response when you see it, sometimes the second time it's like, but I felt like this held up even I'm gonna say it was better because I was wowed the first time, but it held up very well for me
oh,
on the
good,
second
okay,
viewing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I want to know too. If 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 the kind of initial shock and
Yeah.
awe of the style of this film doesn't hold up on a second viewing.
Yeah, because I really wondered about that, but I mean, I kind of even wondered to myself, is this better than Akira? I mean, that might be blasphemy to say, but I think the story is a lot more concise than
Yeah, that's what I liked
Akira.
about this story is that it was concise
Yeah.
and I felt like they had just a real clear direction with the storytelling.
Mhm.
Uh, and I can't say that about all anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Akira, it's kind of all over the place. I really respect it, and I really love it. It was on my top 50 animated films of all time, but I don't know, there are some things about this that I think are even maybe a little bit better, and I think that it's kind of a shame that it didn't get, not that the Academy ever recognizes anime, but it's a little bit of a shame that it didn't get more push by G Kids that season, because I think it was certainly worthy
It's
of.
worthy and it's different enough that you'd think
Mhm.
that they'd take notice, that
Yeah.
they'd um but you wonder how that works if that was just G Kids not pushing
I
it
mean, because
enough
it had
or
enough appeal that it got a second release,
yeah.
so there was enough people wanting to see it in the theater. But I mean, my only real like flaw with this movie is I wish that there were a few more moments to breathe. We got like a few, maybe them eating pizza, kind of a few more just breaths,
Yes.
because it is a lot. And I do think it's also a little too long. I think it almost 2 hours. It's it's a lot for 2 hours.
It's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. I thought kind of during the, well, definitely during the 3rd act, I couldn't tell if
Mhm.
it was the storytelling that was getting a little wonky or I was just getting tired.
Yeah.
Maybe it was some of both.
Yeah. I mean, it starts out so in such an arresting way with the creation of the burnish.
Yeah, oh
It's
yeah.
they have the Great World Blaze, and this is when the burnish are actually created through like the core of the earth, kind of rebelling, basically.
Yeah.
I think, but
Yeah,
it's just
that's
like
cool.
light
Mhm.
and things happen,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that is one good thing about this movie too, is they do not waste time
Oh,
with
no.
exposition explaining things.
They
There's
just
like a little bit from Cray the villain will be less sort of monologuing, but that's about it. I mean, they just let you see it and they tell you just enough to be like, okay, I got it.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
agreed. I thought that was one of its real strong points again, particularly in that 1st act,
mhm,
that it just goes and it doesn't stop really until
yeah.
it is, that pizza scene, which allows you to breathe a little bit. And, yeah, terrific.
Mhm. And because some sci-fi, that's the death of sci-fi. Sometimes it's just the
Yes.
exposition gets
The
so boring
exposition,
for me.
just like, I'm so okay, we get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how I kind of felt about Ghost in the Shell. I mean, I respect it, I admire it, but it was a little boring. If I'm, I'm not gonna lie, the animated Ghost in the Shell.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we meet Gallo. The opening introduction to the firefighters is maybe where they could maybe trim it just a little bit. There's quite a bit of
There's a lot
them.
of characters going on and
Yeah.
a lot of stuff.
But
Yeah.
he's a firefighter. He basically gets kind of a little bit manipulated into taking down the burnish, destroying them. They end up uh, getting sent to prison by the Freeze Force. The leader is Leo Fotia, Leo, and the um uh the leader of the governor of the city, Cray.
Cray.
Yeah, and he is your kind of over the top villain. And what I thought was interesting about this is I think that in a lot of ways, I think this movie has some of the same aesthetic as like the Transformer movies, as far as the way the characters move and
Yeah.
feel. But
Yeah.
this has so much more heart and doesn't have that cringy humor that you get in the Transformers movies. And it's just like I just felt like saying this is what they should watch and do
Yeah.
more like this, not like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I didn't think there was really much cringy about it other than maybe, as you
No.
mentioned, just getting a little tired near the end of the film. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
But still, it, really, interesting and excellent storytelling.
Yeah.
And I watched it, with, uh, captions,
Yeah. Subbed.
yeah, it was subbed, and I don't know if they were offering a dubbed version on HBO Max. I would have preferred the sub, and I'm glad that that's what I,
Yeah.
got to see. But,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, the animation, the way that it has this geometric look to it, and the way the characters move and flow is just so arresting and beautiful and
Oh,
crazy.
it's crazy,
Yeah.
and again, these sweeping shots that, again, I just wanna know how did they do it,
Yeah.
Because there's so many components to it. It just was really, really remarkable.
Yeah, and so Gallo sees Leo saving the burnish, and Leo tells him that they're using the burnish for experiments. And he doesn't believe it at first because he's been kind of controlled. But he starts to, the more he kind of talks, the more he starts to believe. Then you get this early pizza scene, and I always think that food in anime just looks so delicious.
Yeah.
This
Oh
was no
yeah.
exception.
No exception. I
Just like,
mean, what is it with this, anime food?
yeah. I'm like, I want some of that pizza.
The pizza just looked delicious in this beautiful wood
Yeah.
burning, this wonderful oven that they were using, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a Instagram account called Ghibli Food.
Yes.
You follow that? Yeah. Always looks so
We've
good.
talked about
Yeah.
so
And
funny.
yeah. And so then they go to we find out that Cray is using the burnish to create a warp drive so he can basically the core of the earth is building and building and building, and he wants to use this warp drive to escape earth before it explodes. That's the goal.
Yep.
And the burnish are captured except for Leo, who meets up with Gallo, and there's a frozen lake that they go to, and so that's a very kind of intense experience because you see the burnish getting captured and treated terrible
Yeah.
by Cray. And then you have the frozen lake, you find out is a laboratory that is run by basically run by Cray. And then he is a hologram there's a scientist hologram that he is. And
Did you see did you think that Cray was going to be the villain early on when we met him, or what was your take on, when we finally get the reveal of what Cray is, who Cray really is?
yeah, I think so. It's hard for me to remember way back when I first saw it what I thought. But he is pretty sniveling, so I think it's pretty clear that he's the
Yeah.
villain. What
I
did you
wasn't
think?
necessarily surprised, uh, but I thought though that they did initially a good job of
Mhm.
disguising it.
Mhm.
That he seemed like a pretty decent guy that was just,
Well, he
looking
has
out
such a
for
close relationship with Gallo, so
with Gallo. I was gonna say
yeah.
that relationship with Gallo. Yeah,
And
that
so
friendship.
yeah, and so that makes him even super villain. He's like
Yeah.
even more manipulative. And so we find out about this thing called the promare.
Yes.
So the promare is the flame, are like these fire beings from the earth, and the burnish can communicate with them. And so they're basically trying to control the promare with these experiments that they're doing. And it's causing more lava and more and it's killing the burnish. And it's just bad. They're just bad scientists, evil scientists.
Yeah, they're the classic evil scientists.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have some amazing imagery with the way they use fire and light, and also even the cold. Just they're able to create some really cool animation during these sequences.
Oh, it's knockout animation, isn't it?
Yeah. And like I said, I love the music in this
Me too.
movie. I think it's incredible. It's by a man named Hiroyuki Sawano. And I guess he has done musical scores for a lot of series, including Attack on Titan, uh, which is the one I know the best out of the ones he's done. So, yeah, incredible job. It says on Wikipedia that uh, through the film's theme songs are performed by a band called Superfly, a
Yes.
Japanese rock act. And
I
uh,
wanted to try to find some Superfly albums or something.
I
I
know.
gotta get back on on task.
Yeah, I bet they're awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to have this soundtrack. I think it is really good. But I don't know, man. I feel like you almost need both, though. You need the animation and the music.
That's
It'd
what I
be
was, yeah, I agree, because I was wondering
yeah.
if I listened to the music, which happens to me often, when I find a
Mhm.
soundtrack or something. Without the visuals, I don't enjoy the music as much. But wow,
Mhm.
with the visuals,
Yeah.
it's really something.
Yeah. I often wish that the music in anime got more recognition from the Academy than it does. I mean, never. They've never had a single anime score that's ever been nominated, to my knowledge, at least.
Yeah,
That's just insane. When you think of like Joe Hisashi
Joe
for
Hisashi,
Ghibli, is
my
it's
favorite. Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous that he has never been nominated for anything, but
yeah,
I guess you have to be American to get nominated
for the Academy Awards.
or
Yeah,
British. Ridiculous.
yeah, it seems very focused on
Mhm.
Americans and on Brits.
Yeah. So that's frustrating, but I really think it's such an immersive experience when you're watching.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I was just kind of spellbound,
Yeah.
from start to finish.
Yeah. And I think that I don't think there's anything in here that's like particularly not child friendly. I would think, I mean, it's maybe just too loud maybe for
Yeah,
like
loud and
little
kind of
kids.
sensory overload,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wonder.
Yeah.
I wondered about that, but yeah, it's not like it's I mean, in some of this violent stuff, it's, like, the way that they're experimenting on the burnish and whatnot. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like it was all handled tastefully, but you know exactly what was happening.
Yeah,
But
because Akira is an R-rated film because it has gang violence and
yes,
things like that. There's nothing like that here, and I feel like if kids can handle Spider-Verse, I think they can handle this as far as visuals.
right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, then we have Gallo and Leo confronting Cray, and this is a really good sequence,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
especially because Gallo's so angry at Cray for the betrayal.
Yep.
And we find out the big reveal. And I think this part of it did surprise me that Cray is Burnish. And that was
Yep.
definitely a surprise.
That was
I
a
didn't
big
see that
surprise.
coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I mean, when we
Mhm.
found out more his true intentions, that'd be one thing, but then you find out he's a burnish?
Yeah, that was good, and it makes sense because he he's even more bitter than, I mean, you have to be like, it makes him even more of a villain because he isn't just racist and prejudiced, but he's like turning on his own people.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and trying to control them. It's kind of similar to like a Scar almost
Oh,
type of
yes. Good
character.
yeah, good call. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he tries to use Leo to power the warp drive, and it almost kills him. And Gallo has to revive him. One thing I think that's nice about this movie is that they really don't try to have any kind of romantic relationships of any kind. It's just the story. Like they don't. I don't know. I just feel like that would, even though we need kind of a break, maybe that could be a break. But I kind of just like that it's about these friends,
Yes,
you know,
agreed.
and that it's about platonic friendship.
Yeah.
And so then they basically combine their energy, Gallo and Leo, to help restore the Earth. And then it destroys the promare and restores the burnish. They're not burnish anymore, and so that's kind of how the movie ends, but which is a very incredible sequence. You are kind of exhausted by that point.
Oh, I know. I felt exhausted by it too.
Yeah.
Exhausted and kind of exhilarated in the same
Yeah, me too.
yeah, the same sense, yeah.
Yeah. And they did, I think the transfer, because I watched it on HBO Max as well, and it looks great. I don't think you lose because I have it on Blu-ray, but I don't think you lose anything watching it on HBO Max.
Yeah, I thought that the print they were streaming on HBO Max was pretty nice. I'm
Mhm.
but I'm mostly excited now to see it on the big
Yeah,
screen.
that's gonna be so fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I mean, it's just exciting because actually it was really interesting because we were having this discussion in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, where the person said basically that like all animated films can be beautifully animated these days. There's not like a huge difference between like the cheap animation and the studio animation. Like people you can do incredible things on small budgets.
Yeah.
So basically her point was, is it even fair to kind of use that as a point of uh does they all kind of nullify each other, because just like good animation is possible for everybody, and so then it all just becomes about the story and the characters and things like that, the music, and I see the point. I think that there is some truth to that. That even a movie like Sergeant Stubby or something like that, that's on a small budget, can still look really, really good.
Yeah.
But then you see something like this that is so different, it's so bold, it's so incredible that you're like, no, it's possible to still surprise us with animation. That's
Yes.
still, and you look at like Spider Verse, you look at Your Name, you look at some of these films from recent years that have still managed somehow to surprise us, and I would put that in that camp. I really would.
Yeah.
Wolfwalkers be
Mhm.
another one.
Yeah, this one was really a knockout.
I asked on my Twitter what people thought. And let me share. We have Christian Pastrup. He says, it heckin' rocks. So excited for the re release. G Kids is doing later this year, so I can finally check it out in the theater since I missed it last time.
Yes.
And then Cameron Ward says, such a friggin' good film. Just loved it from head to toe. Jules Folks has absolutely loved it. My second favorite animated film of the year after Luca. So I guess she just saw it this year. I thought the message about privilege and putting people on pedestals was and is so relevant today. So I think that's probably about how Gallo kind of held Cray up on this pedestal, and looked at admired him. And she says, and the animation was epic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
as Cece Takato says, it was an incredible film and one of my favorite anime movies in recent years. I thought it had a timely and thoughtful social commentary on immigrant rights, and the animation and music are beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah,
Nice.
I think that's good.
Oh, absolutely. You're awesome followers.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, let us know what you think. We would love to hear your thoughts on this, or let us know on Twitter. That would be fun. And if you're planning on seeing it and when it comes back out in the re release, let us know about that. That would be really fun. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark. You can also follow me on Instagram at movies PAP. I have a movie podcast and blog, which is movies past and present. That's what the PAP
Right.
stands for.
Yes.
So movies past and present.com.
Yes, you shall check that out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And make sure you check out our Patreon. We have awesome movie watch alongs and lots of fun, cool perks for joining. We also have our merch store, which has hashtag animation junkie shirts. So make sure to check that out. We'd sure appreciate it. And also make sure you're following at the Hallmarkies podcast. We have a lot of fun over there as well. And I'm really proud of what we're doing there. And next month for Obscure Animation, we are going to be talking about Richard Linklater's animated film Waking Life, which has been on my bucket list for a while.
I'm so
I
excited to
haven't
see that
seen
because I
it.
haven't seen it either.
Yeah. So because I love Linklater. I think he's a really great director. So I'm very excited to see this animated film and see what it has to offer. So that'll be really fun. So yeah, let us know what you think about that. And we will talk to you all later. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thanks.